7 of the biggest names in sports media all reached the same conclusion about Caitlin Clark. Different careers, different opinions, different backgrounds. But after weeks of controversy, they all started asking the same question. Is the WNBA doing enough to protect its biggest star? And once you hear what they all had to say, it becomes much easier to understand why this debate refuses to go away. That is where the story begins. Caitlin Clark's impact on the WNBA is no longer a debate. She moves ratings. She fills arenas. She drives attention. She brings in new viewers who were not watching before. That much is obvious. But the argument these media voices are making is not just that Clark is important. It is that the league keeps acting strangely casual about the risks surrounding someone this important. Because once you lay the pattern out in full, it becomes a lot harder to dismiss. There have been repeated conversations about hard contact, repeated questions about missed whistles, repeated debates about whether the physicality around Clark is simply part of the game or something more concerning. Then you add another layer, the player vote. That is where this stopped being only an officiating conversation, because Clark can be near the top in fan support, near the top in media recognition, near the top statistically, and still end up ranked shockingly low by players. That result raised eyebrows immediately, not because every player has to rank her number one, but because at a certain point the gap between performance and ranking becomes too large to explain away easily. And that is exactly why so many major voices reacted so strongly. They were not only looking at one ballot result, they were looking at the total picture. A star player taking heavy contact, a star player drawing massive defensive attention every night, a star player producing at an elite level, and then a star player still being ranked in a way that does not seem to match what everybody is watching. That contradiction is what made people speak up. Some focused on the business side. If Clark is driving such a huge share of attention around the league, then every unnecessary injury risk becomes a bigger problem than normal. Not just for Indiana, for the whole WNBA. Others focused on the basketball side. If defenses are treating Clark like one of the most dangerous guards in the sport, then player rankings that place her far lower than that naturally look suspicious. Not necessarily because of a grand conspiracy, but because they do not seem to match the reality happening on the court. And others focused on leadership. That may be the most damaging part of all, because the longer these conversations keep repeating, the more people start asking the same question. Where is the strong response from the league? Not after the internet explodes, not after clips go viral, not after another debate has already taken over the week. Before that. That is the standard people increasingly expect. And that is why so many reactions from major media figures sound similar right now. They may phrase it differently. They may come at it from different angles. But the core message keeps sounding the same. This is too important to keep brushing aside. Some commentators see jealousy, some see insecurity, some see poor officiating, some see weak leadership, some see a league still struggling to adjust to the scale of Clark's impact. But whichever version they emphasize, they keep arriving at the same broader warning. The WNBA cannot fully benefit from Caitlin Clark's visibility while repeatedly looking unprepared for everything that comes with it. That is the real tension here. Because this is not only about whether Clark gets hit too often, it is not only about whether one vote was disrespectful, and it is not only about whether one commissioner answer felt too vague. It is about trust. Trust that the league can handle its biggest star responsibly. Trust that elite performance will be recognized fairly. Trust that player safety will be taken seriously before the next controversy, not after. Once trust starts slipping, every new incident feels bigger. Every hard foul becomes symbolic. Every odd ranking becomes a statement. Every soft response becomes part of a larger story. That is exactly where the Caitlin Clark conversation now lives.
And that is why 7 different voices saying similar things matters. Not because famous people agreeing automatically proves every theory, but because when this many major voices all start reacting to the same pattern, it usually means the issue has grown too large to ignore. The WNBA has a huge opportunity in front of it. That part is still true, but opportunity also creates pressure. Pressure to officiate better, pressure to communicate better, pressure to protect stars better, pressure to show the audience that the league understands what is at stake. Because if this conversation keeps repeating without a stronger response, the debate will keep growing. And at that point, the biggest story will no longer be Caitlin Clark herself. It will be whether the WNBA knew what it had and still failed to handle it correctly.